Depuis le début, on parle de l'importance des jeunes pour assurer le futur de nos Premières Nations, de nos nations. Et ce matin, les organisateurs de ce rassemblement voudraient leur donner la chance de prendre la parole et de nous exprimer comment eux, ils voient à partir de leurs propres lunettes, comment à partir de leurs propres fenêtres, comment ils voient toute la question des retrouvailles des survivants et également de leur rétablissement. Donc, ce matin, nous avons 3 représentantes qui ont accepté gracieusement de venir partager leurs impressions et aussi leurs suggestions. Ça me fait plaisir de vous les présenter dans l'ordre. Madame Rosalie Labillois. Oui, Rosalie, elle sourit toujours, elle est facile à reconnaître. Elle est de Elk River Bar First Nations au Nouveau-Brunswick. Il y a également Mademoiselle Johnny Caro, Johnny de Taloyoak, et également nous avons Kira de la Ronde de Red River, Métis du Manitoba. Bienvenue à vous 3. Je sais que vous avez beaucoup de choses à partager avec nous, mais je voudrais vous demander si vous pouviez respecter 20 minutes pour chacun dans votre allocution. Et je crois comprendre que nous allons débuter avec Rosalie Labillois, et suivi de Johnny, et finalement pour compléter avec Kira. Donc, on vous écoute avec beaucoup d'attention, et merci d'être parmi nous.
Well, Alan, thank you so much, Luke. Incha Jachmish Delisi, Wabeg, Missibirija, Hodno Galiganayak, and Dodom, Nagunik, Walaluk, Dandelbe Dayok, Delisi, Rosalie Labilwak, Delewi, Okbi Ganchikak, Listawish, Edwak Damadik, Ukche Melgiginori, Ukchitandanikara Sultik. Hello, everybody. My name is Rosalie Labilwa. And I'm Mi'kmaq from Elk River Bar First Nation in Listigish, Quebec. And I introduced myself in our language, and I shared my spirit name, and that I come from the Otter clan, and that my strength comes from the north. And I thanked everybody for being here. And I prayed for strength in the way that we think. And I think about these next 20 minutes that I have, and I'll try to make the best out of them. But at first, I would love to acknowledge all of the survivors and the families that are in the room here. I'm truly blessed and honored to be in your presence. And over these past few days, it's been remarkable. And just that, the feeling of how powerful it is in this room was very evident since the opening ceremonies. And I'd love to acknowledge and thank the Office of the Special Interlocutor for the invitation to come and share my story of where I've come from. And and also to our young people that are here who have been so welcoming. It's truly, it's to feel so acknowledged and welcomed in that way makes you feel really good. So I just want to thank you guys all for being here and the hard work you guys have been doing, these past few events. And also, I have to acknowledge the land and the people of this territory. As a Mi'kmaq person, we look at our history with our Iroquois relatives, and knowing that, I have many good relations with your people, and it's always such an honor to be here and to thank you for welcoming us here and for the land for taking care of us. Last night, these past few days, I've been really thinking, what am I going to talk about? And so last night, we ended up actually going to the fire, and I shared a song while I was there, and it reminded me of so much of how grounding that was. And I remember when I was younger, I got to hear the former chief of Cowes' talk, and he said, before you ask people for their hand, show them your heart. And so if I may, I'll share this small part of my heart with you for all that you guys have shared these past few days in a reciprocal manner, and also to help keep me grounded and knowing that I'm starting off in the best way that I can. And last night I shared this song at the fire, and it comes from my mom's community of Listigouche, Quebec, and it's our whale song. And what was told to that man that vision came to, it interprets that the whale is coming ashore and that the turtle is falling behind, and that they're bringing a message for our people when the hard times are coming. And in learning this song, it has taken me to many beautiful places and to see many beautiful people. And it's just the power of that song and that belief, and being able to share that medicine. And I pray that this song may be able to help carry you back to your home fires in a good way and help you on your journey, wherever that may be. And you don't have to stand. It's okay if you stay seated. If anything, just be present and just listen to that. And I'm also trying to use up my 20 minutes in a good way too, so. Well, thank you so much, for all that you guys have given to us. And, I think about that song and where it has taken me, and it's something that I was also a part of the Vatican delegation that went over last year. And that was a song that I shared, when our delegation would gather together, because I knew that was the best thing that I could offer in those times of need, and be the helper that I can be. And I guess I'll tell you a little bit of my story of where I come from. My parents, they met at a sweat lodge, so I'm very fortunate to be raised, surrounded by our ceremonies and our elders, and, hearing the language in our songs. And I have to recognize that that's a privilege that not too many of my peers had the chance. And then that understanding that with that responsibility, It's really big to share that and being able to help guide our relatives, back home to themselves. And to acknowledge my parents. My parents made a choice to end their suffering and to break those cycles so that I could have a better life. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for their unconditional love, for my elders and my family, for the support system that we have. Because I know who I am because of that. And that's something that I know could never be taken away from me. And I think, just thinking of my family's history, my grandfather was a residential school survivor that had went to the Shubenacadie Indian Residential School in Nova Scotia along with his 3 brothers. And I believe there's 13 members of our small community that had went. So a lot of our major families were impacted in our small community. And I actually never had the chance to meet my grandfather or his siblings, and so it's just through stories that I've heard from my family. And I think that's kind of something that has been a driving force for myself, is to be able to help share our story and to think of that healing that my family never had the chance to address in that time, or even be aware of the things that we have today and all of the hard work that everybody has done in this room to get us to where we are today. And, so thinking about my history of being a young person and being in ceremony, for the longest time I was very shy. I really was hesitant, and I didn't want to help my mom more. And I remember going through that shame of feeling like, my peers are going to look at me differently. And that stayed for a while until it was probably into my high school years, where I really began to see the gifts that I have and the purpose that I have in this world and what I need to share. And, in that, and listening to my spirit in that way, it has taken me to many beautiful places. And I got the chance to work with many beautiful people from across this world. And, one of the things that I think about was back in 2015, when the TRC event was happening in Ottawa. My father had taken me at that time because he really believed it was important for myself as a young person to know and understand our history. So my grandmother, the late Margaret LaBilba, always said, you have to know where you're coming from, in order to know where you're going. And so something that those teachings have been, very strongly instilled in our family, and being able to look at that and that healing, and being able to address that and to actually feel it is something totally different. And yet I still see, the pain, whether it's in my father's or my relatives' eyes when, they encounter, certain parts of their healing that they haven't seen yet. It's something that, we all work together as a family to help one another. So I kind of think that's where a little bit of my journey had begun, well before I've known, where I'd come to as a young person today. And I remember when the 215 announcement came out, and there was actually a gathering that was called at our teaching lodge in Saugeen, Manitoba, at the Turtle Lodge. And I had the chance to meet, these wonderful individuals from Thunderchild, and to hear of the story. And I don't think I could do it totally justice of what that was, but this man had a vision, and what he could see was almost like between these 2 valleys, and what he was being told, and you could see like this beaten down path between those 2 valleys, and it was told because of what had happened in these institutions that there was an attempt to dim our light, what our people had gone through, was to kind of snuff that light out, to take that Indian out of that child. And, these children, when you have an unnatural death like that, you know, what was told to me, and I don't mean to impose any of my teachings either, but this is just a story that was told, was that when an unnatural death happens like that, you know, the spirit lingers. It lingers between, you know, these different layers, I guess, of our world, our physical experience. And, you know, and the teaching that came out of that story was that, you know, in order to help those children to cross back over into the spirit world was to light a fire for them, light a fire so that they could follow that light and to go back home in a good way. And that was something that was very powerful, that was shared at our lodge. And it was something that really, you know, stood out to myself and my mom, and we passed that tobacco to bring that ceremony home. You know, coming from the East Coast, you know, my dad would always say we've been culturally bankrupt. You know, a lot of our ceremonies didn't come back, you know, until well over 40 years ago. And it was a group of young people who made that adventure out west to come help bring our ceremonies home. You know, so in passing that tobacco, our Nehio brothers came to our community to come share that ceremony with us. So I kind of think, you know, I was just writing out my timeline earlier. I was like trying to piece all these things together, and, you know, it was at that ceremony that that offering was made, and the week after that, I decided to do my first year at Sundance at our lodge there. And I remember dancing for my father and my family, you know, so that we can maybe be able to overcome these things. And, you know, I think that really set the stage of making those intentions of our healing, right? We're always taught to be very cautious of what we say, what we vocalize, you know, because we're making that verbal commitment. And, you know, since then, as I mentioned, I was a delegate for the Vatican trip last year, and I also received a very special invitation from the Honorable Mary Simons, Governor General's house. I had attended the papal address that was there as well. And, you know, and here I am today being able to help share part of that story. And I think at the end of it is just looking at, I was never there to appease anybody. I wasn't there to kiss any hands or, you know, in that sense. I was there to speak to my family's journey, that everything that this institution had stood for and tried to had failed because of who I am today. And being able to share that and speak to you my grandfather's story, and being able to say that I'm proud to be Mi'kmaq, I'm proud to be who I am and where I come from, because I know that's something that my grandfather probably was never able to express or feel in his physical lifetime here. And I think in saying that, it's just the beauty of our ceremonies, the beauty of the way of life that we have, and being able to help share that is something that I hold very dear to my heart, and words of encouragement, and to acknowledge those who have held on to our ceremonies, you know, to this day. So this is the life that we could have. And, you know, one of the things that I remember, I got the privilege to work with the late Elmer Cushane from Saguin. And he would always tell us, because he was one of the co-chairs of the Elders Council at AFN, and he would tell us, you know, it's all for the little ones. You know, and so in my role as a young leader, you know, I always try to put the well-being of our young people at the forefront of our decision-making, you know, and being able to listen to our spirits and just be totally authentic and unapologetic about who we are, and the places that, you know, when you submit to that, when you surrender to that, it'll take you to many beautiful places. So I think my time is probably running up, and I just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to what I had to share, and I'm looking forward to hearing from my other panelists. So, Walalio, Kagamsinogma.
Hi. Checking if the mic is working first. The first thing I want to do is I'm thankful and so honored to be here as well. I want to thank those who invited me to take part of this gathering. When I got the email, I was wondering how did they got my email. And then a couple days before I came, I told one of my close friends, and she was like, "Oh, I put your name in," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's how I got in." My name is Joni. My Inuktitut name is Aupilakruk, and legally my last name is under Karu. It's actually supposed to be Karuk. I had the same like problem as her. I wrote down some notes quickly just before I came. I was not sure what I was going to talk about, and ever since I came, I've been feeling very heavy, very overwhelmed with different feelings, and I was very nervous to be speaking. And I know that one of the reasons I felt that way is because of colonization. Colonization made our ancestors, our grandparents, our parents, down to us. They made us feel like failures. They made us feel like we're not good enough. And that's exactly how I felt when I got invited. And that's why it took me a while to accept the invitation, because I didn't believe in myself. And I know that my parents, I know that my grandparents felt the same way because of colonization. But here I am today, and thanks to the encouragement from my family, my friends, and from those who are here, I received support from people here. And intergenerational trauma was passed down to me. And it's hard. It gets so hard because it was passed down to me. And but the strength that comes from my grandfather, I always look at the strength that he has. He went through so much. He went through a lot throughout his whole life. And his strength, he inspires me. His strength really inspires me. And it helps me to continue to keep going, because he shows his grandchildren and his children his strength, no matter what he has been through, no matter what he has done, that led to me having intergenerational trauma. I would also like to speak on how last year I lost someone to murder. It was right around this time. And so in 2019 to 2020, I took my first year of college. I went to Nunavut Sibunik Savut for my first year of college. I was actually the first to graduate high school from my father's side of family. So that's one of the curses that I broke in my family. I was also the first to go for my first year of college in 2019 to 2020. So I had a classmate, her name was Savannah Picoya. She was very bubbly, very kind. She was one of the most kind people in the classroom. And last year, right around this time, she got murdered while she was in Ottawa to take school for nursing. I didn't realize that it was about a year since her passing until I went to the room where they did the sharing circle, and that's when I finally realized that it's been about a year now since she got murdered. Last year, I was actually taking college at University College for the pre-health program to get into nursing. And she was also in Ottawa for school for nursing. We were in different places. I was in Iqaluit. It was very hard for me to hear of her passing and to know that she didn't get the chance like I do today to advocate, to continue on with schooling, and to do the important work that needs to be done for Indigenous people. Today, she was very kind and she had so much passion. And today I try and do my best for her as well. I do what I do for her. And last year I was actually the first recipient of the Savannah Picoyak Scholarship as well. Last year, that semester, it was very, very hard for me. My mental health was very bad. And that was one of the reasons. And then another reason on top of that was what I've been through throughout my life. I'm very young, but I am still going. And even though I'm so young, and I know I never went through maybe something harder than my grandparents, but I still went through something, and I'm still pushing through because I see them still push through today. I would also like to speak on how I lost people to suicide. I lost a few people to suicide who were same age as me, who I grew up knowing. I not only grew up knowing them in the classroom, I also grew up seeing them daily in my community. One of them was just turning into a teenager when he decided to commit suicide. That's still hard today. And another one just a few months ago, she was same age as me, she also committed suicide. And they didn't have the chance to live the life that I do today. And having that happen, it gives me so much strength to know that I am still here, and it gives me so much hope that I can it was very hard to hear of them committing suicide, and the reason why they do that is because they are left with no hope. No hope. They feel that's the only thing that they can do to leave the pain that they are feeling, to leave what they have been put through, to leave what they're going through. And I know that today I need to advocate for that too as well. I know that one thing is we need to educate young people, because I know there's a lot of people today who are confused, who are in so much pain, and they need to be educated more often. In my community, I find that things are not really spoken of, like the history and what we have all been through. And I feel that from that, youth are left very confused and left with so much pain. They wonder why they're going through this from their parents, from their grandparents. And I believe we should be educating more of our youth in our communities because they're so confused and so lost in life. A lot of youth need to be educated on that, our history, why we are the way we are today. And I believe when they are educated, it will help them go on in life. And I have so much hope that the youth, and not only youth, but everyone else, will choose to go on a healing journey because that is so important as Indigenous people. We have all been through so much, but there's still hope. And we need encouragement for youth. We need encouragement for all those who need to go on a healing journey. And I know that you can't force someone to go on a healing journey. They have to decide it themselves. So having the support and encouragement for people will help them to begin on their healing journey. I know that in my community, it's a very small community. It's a population of over 1,000. There's not much resources in my community because it's a very small community. But I believe that in these small communities all across Canada, we need more support. We need more resources. We need more help in these smaller communities because I know a lot of people in these small communities struggle so much and they're so lost and so confused. I know in my community, there's so low graduates. One time there was just one graduate, and I believe there was no graduates at all 1 year in my community because they have no hope. Like what they go through so much that they don't have the energy to go to school. Some don't have the support there. Sadly, some don't have the support from their own parents. And we need more support for people who don't have that support from family. One thing I would also like to mention is how resilient Indigenous people are. Every Indigenous person is very resilient. They still push through no matter what they have been through. And I acknowledge that, and I am proud to be Indigenous. I am proud to be Inuk, because we all have been through so much, but we are still here today. And a lot of you here inspire me so much. You inspire me so much for continuing to push through, to continue fighting for us. And you inspire me to keep going. You inspire me so much. You give me so much hope. And I would like to thank you all for that. Just being an Indigenous person, I also struggled with my first year of college because of what I've been put through. Like I said earlier, I've been, intergenerational trauma has been passed down to me. And I struggled for my first year. After my first year was completed, I felt like a failure. And it took a while for me to feel like I accomplished something after my first year of college. I was putting myself down for it very hard. But today, after I reflected later on my first year of college, I realized that I did accomplish something. And I really hope that youth out there will do the same, will push through it, will eventually realize that they have accomplished a lot more than they think, because a lot of us feel like failures. And I also would like to thank all those who are working to find the missing children. You do very, very important work. You are the reason we are pushing through today as well. And I guess that's about it for what I have to say, and I thank everyone for listening.
Bonjour tout le monde, mon nom est Kira Delaron. Je viens du Duck Bay, Manitoba et Selkirk, Manitoba. Et pour le moment, ça c'est tout le français que je vais parler aujourd'hui because my name is Kira Delarond. I'm from Manitoba. My family comes from Duck Bay, Manitoba and Selkirk, Manitoba. And I said that's about all the French I'm going to speak today because I know we're here in Montreal. This is vraiment le francophone French, and where I'm from, we speak a version called Bush French. So I'm not going to offend any French speakers in the room today, but I thought I'd start by introducing myself in French. So, hello everyone. I would like to thank my fellow panelists this morning, Rosalie and Joni. Thank you so much for the words you shared. I'd like to thank all of the survivors and elders and knowledge keepers who are in the room today or who are on virtual spaces at home or wherever they may be. I was very honored to be asked by the Special Interlocutor's Office to come here today to speak from the Red River Métis perspective. So I'm a very proud Red River Métis woman. I have generations of Red River Métis before me, my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, my other grandfather, and their parents that came before them as well. We've all been proud Red River Métis. I am an intergenerational survivor. My grandmother and grandfather met at Cranberry Portage Residential School, which is still yet to be a federally recognized residential school, and both of my grandparents were deemed as half-breed placement students within these institutions. So at the time when they had attended, there was not, the school was not full. They were in neighboring communities where an outreach was put out for Métis students to have their education provided to them. My great-grandparents thought it was a phenomenal opportunity. They hadn't had this. The school that my grandparents attended in Duck Bay from the community was a one-room classroom school, so they thought, wow, our kids are going to be educated. They're going to get a chance. They never knew. Our communities weren't very informed at the times of what these schools and the atrocities and the stories that came with them. So both my grandparents, being the younger ones in their families, they had both attended. When my grandfather passed in 2018, I apologize, I didn't know his full story at the time. He passed away with his story being with him. And it was at that time when my grandma slowly started to tell us a little bit more and a little bit more. But it was through my educational experience that I was learned as well. I grew up in Manitoba. I went to a French-speaking immersion school, and most of my identity being Métis was erased from me within the early 2000s in a French language program, because with the last name like Delarond and being from Manitoba, I must just be a French person. I must not be Métis. That's not a thing. There's First Nations, but the Métis are just French. They're confused. So my identity still was being taken and being mistold to me at a young age. It was not the same experience that you all went through. I did not have violence. I did not have that sort of trauma. But I do have a similar understanding of what it means to have your identity be told that it's not, and that it isn't who you are, and that that's not what you should be. I recognize that. And I hope for my children, my goal is they'll never have that question. Their identity as an Indigenous person will never be told to them that that's not who they are, That's not what they are, and that's not who they are to be proud of. I know when my grandfather passed, he would call himself a Métis. He would actually refer to himself as a half-breed. I apologize if that offends anyone, but he was a proud half-breed at the end. But I didn't know, and I didn't have a true connection. I couldn't see myself in my home community because we all looked the same and we all had a similar experience. So when I started reclaiming my identity, I met with many elders and survivors. And I met with many people who had a similar understanding of they knew they were this, they knew they were Métis, but what does that mean? How does that feel and how does that look, being a Métis person in Indigenous spaces, in Canada, the larger picture? And to me, it means I know my uniqueness. I recognize my relations with all of you, but I still recognize that I come from a different nation. I come from a different people. I recognize the beauty that comes within. And I recognize how we're fighters. We have fought politically, historically, we still fight today. But the goal that I have for futures and the generations that come following me is that there's no longer going to be interturmoil between our nations, that we will act and we will recognize each other's rights, we will recognize each other's distinction, and we will have this space that we will all be Indigenous people together. And it's gatherings like this where we have our three distinct people all in one space, where we have youth panelists from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis being able to come and speak to their experiences and have yourselves be able to hear us, but then have us be able to listen to you and carry your stories forward. I was also able to be a part of the Vatican delegation when the Red River Métis had gone, and it was a beautiful experience. And I will always remember Elder Jimmy DeRoche. I sat next to him while we were in the room, and he turned to me and he said, "My girl, I never thought I would see this day." And I never did either. And it meant more to him, but I carry that forward now. I carry it forward for the generations that didn't know, that have yet to be born to this world and have yet to understand what our people had gone through. I'll carry the story forward for them. I will carry Elder Jimmy's story, and I will tell everyone, he never saw that day coming, but he lived to experience it. And you all today are living to experience this journey we're on now as well. I thank you all for having me a part of this journey with you, to learn amongst you, and to be able to use my story of my grandparents as placement students, to recognize that they don't know if they can come into spaces such as this. They don't see their experience as being the same. And to be able to go home after this weekend and say to my grandmother, your story was shared, it was heard, and it was felt. I know that means more to her than it will to me, but I'm honored to be able to do that for her here today. I know within my home community, what happened within the schools, residential schools, is not spoken about as often, but we have many day school survivors within our communities. And understanding and learning and listening to those survivors and their children, I've learned from them that they have one goal. Though education was the root of why these institutions were created, and it was a goal to change who we were as people through the lens of education, the only thing I'm reminded today is how they want us to continue to be educated. They hope for us that we can break the cycles and we can return and come out of it educated young people who can enter these institutions now and make a difference and change. Myself, I was the first Red River Métis valedictorian from Red River College. Thank you. We had never had a Red River Métis student within the province of Manitoba, where there are thousands of us, graduate as valedictorian. And I got to stand on that stage representing my peers and classmates in an institution that never wanted me to be able to cross that stage. And I got to address and I got to share my family's story. I got to tell the institution that I, yet again, was their first, but I will not be their last, because we're going to continue to be educated. We're going to continue to enter those institutions. As a young person now, I'm working within my national government. I'm working for the Manitoba Métis Federation. I'm using my education to be a young leader. And I encourage many other young people to do the same. I had the great privilege of being the national youth representative for the Red River Métis for a number of years. And when I served in that position and met with other young people, my goal was to remind them that the wisdom that we have has been passed down to us through intergenerational trauma as well. We've learned from the things that have shaped us. We've been able to grow and we've been able to reflect. And that's because individuals like yourselves in this room have taken us in. And I would just like to comment, I love the idea of adopt a youth. So if anyone's looking for another youth to adopt at lunchtime, I'm willing to be taken in as well, because meeting with people and connecting and sharing stories is the most important for ensuring that these stories don't just stay with us. It's not like my grandfather's story, who sadly passed with him. I hope that you can entrust in these youth to carry the stories on for generations to come, because at this time we're educating ourselves, and we need to start educating fellow Canadians. The denialism of all of your experiences is something that I truly keeps me up at night. I feel sick over, because I hear all of you. I recognize all of you and I see all of your stories. And for myself, a goal is to change that narrative for fellow Canadians, for them to recognize you and to see you and to listen to you. And it's having leaders from the federal government, provincial governments, municipal governments learning you who you are. It's having your fellow neighbors have an understanding for you. Because we see everything and we know the traumas that we have in our hearts, and I don't think they've woken up to those yet. And I know that that's an important next step in all of our collective healing as Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people within Turtle Island, is recognizing one another, accepting one another, and healing with one another. As a Métis person, I often say that I'm walking within two worlds. I feel myself pulled into the Indigenous space, and I'm connected in this Indigenous space, but I recognize my fair skin. I recognize that if I were put in a room, I could look like a white person, and I bet a bunch of you are looking at me right now saying, "Oh my girl, you still do." But I recognize that we need this. As I walk in two worlds, I have a power of having a pale face. And I use that to make some people uncomfortable, because they wouldn't expect me to have the stories I have, and they wouldn't expect this old girl to just come in hot like I do sometimes. But remember, I said I'm a Métis and I'm a fighter. I have this discomfort that I had when I was in university and college at the time of being in two worlds at once. Being an Indigenous person in colonial spaces, being a young person in these spaces. And what I've learned to do is use that discomfort as fuel to push forward. I no longer let myself be uncomfortable in classrooms. I'll put my hand up, I'll say what I need to say, even if I'm wrong. I have a little bit of confidence behind me. But it's because I was taught by my elders that my voice is power. And if I choose to silence my own voice, I'm also silencing the stories that came before me. I don't want to have any of your stories silenced anymore. They need to be heard and shared, and I thank and honor all of you for sharing them with us. Apologies. I really speak from my heart when I do these. These girls are so smart. They prepared little notes and they had little bullet points. I speak from the heart when I do most of my speaking, so I apologize if I'm all over the place. But I I'm looking out to the room and I'm scanning all of your faces, and you all seem so intently listening and so engaged with our youth. And that's another huge step. Our youth are our future, but our youth were also our past. We have all been a young person. We've all been a youth. You all likely see us up here, and you have memories of yourself at that age. And I hope you continue to see and live through our spirit as well, as young people, because I do the same. I'm the eldest sibling in my family. I'm the eldest of 6. I'm the only girl. That's a lot of boys, I know. But that comes with a lot of responsibility as being the eldest matriarch, the next generation and the next matriarch within my family. So oftentimes, I call my aunties, I call my cuckoos, and I say, I don't have a clue. So there's many ways that I still look to you all, and I still seek guidance from you all. And that will continue to happen. I hope you're all ready for it. Whoever adopts me today, you're in for a treat. But I just see the next generation has so much coming for them. I can feel it within myself. These next generations, we are setting up for success because you have all set me up for success. So I'm going to continue to do the same. I see the table of youth over there, and I just want to shout them out again as well. My sister as well, Tracy Leos, is here, so I'm going to give her a little shout out. But I was honored to have been asked to be the youth facilitator at the Vancouver session back in January. And I got a little confident, like I said I do, and I went up to the microphone and I said, hey, by the way, I love seeing how many elders and survivors and knowledge keepers there are in the room, but I think I've only counted about 4 or 5 youth. So I would just like to say to the Special Interlocutor's Office, thank you so much for having a table full of youth here, because these young people, I see their spirit, I see their energy, I see the drive and the care they have for community, and I know that they are going to be the ones that are going to take care of our next generations. I can see how ready they are to take on that responsibility. So I thank you all for giving us that opportunity to care for you all and to learn from you all and to be involved in these sorts of gatherings because they're so important. So thank you all again. Sorry for my rambliness, but I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Merci, merci beaucoup.
What an amazing youth panel. Thank you to our matriarchs rising. Some key messages coming out. We've heard important messages from Rosalie sharing her gift of song. Yes, we are related. Rosalie sharing her beautiful voice, just so moving. But thank you, Rosalie, for your work in addressing what her father calls the cultural bankruptcy. And Rosalie does this by helping with ceremony in the East and traveling and bringing that back. Thank you. Joni, your message resonated with everyone. We've all felt the devastating impacts, the very nefarious impacts of colonization in making us feel not good enough. Thank you for speaking your truth. And Kyra, reminding us of the 3 nations. The 3 nations represented here, the First Nation people, the Inuit, and the Métis. Kyra reminded us to recognize and celebrate our unique nations proudly, and how these youth are listening and carrying these stories forward. You are inspiring, you are authentic, and you give us hope. Another round of applause, please. An exit. They are standing for you, ladies.